Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zorkel Profiles, along with my co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Tracy, we have a very special guest today, Reverend Dr. Bishop Kevin Foreman. From humble beginnings in Memphis to becoming one of Colorado's most influential leaders, Bishop Kevin Foreman has turned challenges into catalysts for community transformation. Inducted into the Colorado Gospel Music Hall of Fame and honored with official days in both Denver and Aurora, he's a pastor, author, and visionary whose work through the Harvest Foundation has supported thousands of families. Bishop Foreman inspires others to lead with compassion, break generational barriers, and build purpose-driven success. Get ready for a powerful conversation about leadership, service, and the kind of growth that truly changes lives. Bishop Foreman, thank you for coming today. We really appreciate you carving out some time for us.
Thank you so much for having me. It is my absolute pleasure and joy to be with you ladies. Excited to share with your audience. I know that a lot of value is going to come out of our conversation today, so I'm excited to be with you. Thank you for having me.
That's awesome. Bishop Foreman, I'd like to start with asking you a little bit about your start, right? I understand that you became ordained at a really impressively young age. Can you
19.
tell us? Yeah, 19. Can you tell us the backstory about that?
Sure. You know what? So it's so funny. The joke is I came out of my mom's womb with a Bible and a briefcase. So I just came out with this spiritual affinity and this business affinity, and it just was always very innate to me. It was just very much so. This is just how, and everybody like this. Doesn't everybody think about like the Bible and business like together? Doesn't everybody think about like spiritual principles and success working together? And I came to realize that wasn't always the case. And so I saw that as something that was unique and different about me. And so you fast forward at the age of 12, that's when I started my first business. It was an enterprise, of course. You know, when you're 12, you want to do everything. And so it was a tutoring service, a lawn care service, and then just one-off projects. And I actually got a loan from a bank in Colorado that had a special charter called Young Americans Bank, special charter to do financial products for kids under 18, of course, with parental consent, et cetera. So I was the first. I pioneered their business loan program. And so with that $300, that I got my first business started that way. And in fact, to this day, any young person that goes to the second level of that bank, which is called Young Ameritown, where essentially young people go and they get experience in what it looks like to work in different jobs, start a business, be the mayor, be the police chief, these types of things. They have to walk past my picture. And I think it's something really incredible. And every entrepreneur that comes out of there has to walk past me and see me from when I was 12, by the way, holding up that business plan. I just think that's a great honor to be able to have that type of influence. And so that was the same year I got into ministry playing drums. I got a drum set because a friend and I, we were very competitive. He was an actual real drummer. I wasn't. I tried the trombone, hated it. Tried the saxophone, hated it. Tried the trumpet, hated it. Like I said, there's only three things here. This is too much. You got to figure out the fingering on that. And he got a drum set one Christmas. I went home and I told my mother and my stepfather I want a drum set. I got the drum set. So you can't even play. I said, well, I'll teach myself how to play. And I'm so glad I did because taught myself how to play. Eventually, we'll be in the Colorado Gospel Music Hall of Fame, and the rest is history that's still being made. So at 19, I was ordained into the ministry as a pastor, and then a few years later would become a senior pastor and plant what today is known as Harvest Church. So it's been an amazing journey on the ministry side.
It certainly has. As I did a little research on you, the thing that came up a lot, the way people describe you, is the people's bishop.
Mhm.
So tell me more about that. What does that title mean to you? How has it shaped who you are and your leadership and the influence you've had on communities?
Oh, you know what? So to me, let's start with the end part. Community is everything. If you're not transforming the community, then what are you doing? At the end of the day, life has to take on a meaning that's bigger than me, myself, and I. And so I have always been driven to, to impact the lives of people. Even with one of my business endeavors, I remember we had built Denver's largest. By the time I was 21, because this ran parallel to ministry, I built Denver's largest African American owned real estate finance brokerage, so mortgage company, and so I was always it was important to me that we just weren't making money, but we were impacting lives. So I would often hire people that nobody else unnecessarily hire because they didn't have the experience. And I would go through, we would teach people the process, teach people how to do it, teach people how to originate, process the whole nine. And that became a very successful business. But to me, the driver was transformation. So to me, my whole life has been spent transforming the lives of other people. So it's literally written in my notes that I've got to do as much as I can, as fast as I can, while I can to reach everybody that I can. And so that's where that people's bishop moniker comes from, is that I genuinely care about the people that I'm connected to, and I want them to see results in their life. That's what drives me. To me, on the ministry side, gospel, it's the good news. The good news is the bad news is wrong. Let's get some results. On the
Mhm.
business side, let's get some results. What are we doing that is not just making money, but that's positively impacting the lives of people? Because at the end of the day, all of this will be over. All of this will be gone. A startling statistic, ladies, 1 out of 1 people will die. Startling statistic, right? 1 out of 1 people is going to exit the earth. And the question
Imagine that.
is, right, exactly, right? But sometimes we don't think that way. And when you think with the end in mind, it makes you say, well,
Mhm.
what can I do while I'm here to change the lives of people? And so people just would say, oh, Bishop Foreman, you love people, you love people, you love people, you do this for people, do this for people. And it just became a thing that we said, well, let's trademark that bad boy and make it part of who we are. And so there you go, the people's bishop.
Yeah,
It's right there behind me.
yeah,
That's
you're
right.
really talking about legacy.
Yeah,
You're really talking about legacy.
absolutely. Absolutely. What are you going to leave behind when you're gone? And I want my
Mhm.
life to still speak when I can't.
Mm.
Yeah. Bishop Foreman, you said something early on about you came out with a briefcase and a Bible.
Yeah.
And so often in churches, they separate business and spirituality and
Mhm.
religion and what we learn from behind the pulpit and in the Bible. They separate it, but you literally overlap it in a million different ways. Why do you think that's important and a message that needs to go out? I see business as one of the mountains we need to conquer and the
Oh,
way to
yes.
get the word of God out there. What are your thoughts on
Oh, I
that?
love that. Well, you hit it with the mountains, right? 7 major mountains of culture and society, arts and entertainment, business, education, family, government, church, and media. And I agree with that principle. In fact, it's one of our core values as an organization and as a church. To me, I always saw those two being inextricably connected. And so when I saw them sort of bifurcating, but no, you can't, if you're going to be spiritual, you can't be successful. And if you're going to be successful, you can't be spiritual. And I said, but no, that's not even biblical principle. Some of my favorite scriptures, one like Revelation 5:10 says, I will make you a king and priest, spiritual and successful. Two realms in one person. And then for those who might say, well, I don't necessarily know that I believe that. Okay, well, I got an Old Testament reference for you too. Melchizedek, King Melchizedek. It literally means king and priest. And one man, he was both king of Salem and the high priest of God. So that's Abraham, right? So that gets everybody. So whatever you believe or don't believe, that gets everybody. And so to me, I always saw this as these two worlds that connected. And when I looked in the Bible, I saw that over 15% of Jesus' words, when prayer, faith, heaven, and hell combined, were about money. And to produce money, that's commerce, that's business. And so to me, I always saw those things as connected. Luke 19:13, do business until I come.
Mhm.
I just saw those things as connected. So I think it gets separated a lot because of motives. And to me, for some, I don't want to talk a lot about business because it may seem like my motives are wrong. And then for some, I don't want people to get caught up into money, 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 or success, success, success. But here's what I discovered is if we're blessed to be a blessing, you can't bless somebody else if you're not blessed yourself. You can't empower someone else if you're not empowered yourself. And so to me, kind of taking away the taboo aspect of it and talking about it and saying, these are the spiritual principles and these things work together in tandem. It's not an either or, it's a both and. To me, that's just always been what I saw. That's what I see in the scripture,
Mhm.
but that always was very innate to me. It was very natural to me because that's just the way I came out.
So, along the lines of the blessed and the blessing, I was
Mhm.
watching one of your videos. I think it was on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
and you were talking about boldness and faith. Like
Mhm.
in a nutshell, can you summarize that video for our audience in like one or two sentences?
I gotcha. Yeah. To walk by faith is to literally walk with boldness. That boldness says, I can't guarantee what the outcome will be, but I can guarantee that I'm going to take a step forward towards a better outcome. And so to me, that boldness is everything that faith is. Without faith without works is dead. So you got to be bold. And bold means get out of your comfort zone. I know there's more than two sentences, but let's
That
put
was
commas
great.
and make it
No,
run
that
out
was
there.
succinct. It was succinct.
There you go.
I think I told you pre-show that my father was a missionary and a
Mhm.
pastor, as is my brother. And it seemed as I was growing up that they took a vow of poverty, or my
Mm.
father took a vow of poverty and
Wow.
saw money as evil. And of course, our audience are business owners. They're founders of very large franchise systems. And I'm finding that as we're interviewing more and more these founders and multi-unit franchisees, more and more are talking about their faith for the
Mhm.
first time in
Mhm.
probably generations. Because I know when I was raised, it was not something that kind of crossed those barriers. So I appreciate your boldness in that area. So thank you for putting it out there.
Sure. One
So,
second.
a couple of questions for you. So, how do you um, see this as a bigger mission? I mean, is this really a purpose in your life that to get this message that we are both kings and priests? What is your purpose in
Oh,
life?
absolutely. So my purpose goes back to the thing I mentioned earlier about reaching as many people as I can, while I can, as fast as I can. And in that, my message is really that kings and priests message in the substratum of everything I talk about. Everything I speak, if it's my book called Sins of the Fathers, Breaking Generational Curses, I'm the first to achieve certain things educationally, financially, spiritually. I'm the first of many, and this is not normal. This was not what my father was, not what my stepfather was, not what my grandfather was. In fact, I ordained my grandfather into the ministry. He passed away unexpectedly about a year and a half ago, but I had the privilege of bestowing both his ordination and we have a Harvard Bible College. We have a whole college that you can earn your associate's doctoral degree, and conferring his doctorate upon him. And as he completed that, so I was the first. So I know what it is to be a curse breaker. But the substratum of that is this whole kings and priests thing. Like it's not either or, it's both and. I don't have to pick this or pick that. I pick
Hmm.
both. And so if it's the book Evolutionaries, where I talk about how there's a new you that's evolving, you're constantly evolving. As long as you live life thinking like a butterfly, I'm not going back to what I used to be. I'm always evolving into a better version of myself, no matter what it is. Or my first book, Making Money Moves, The Art of Getting Your Finances in Order, which I wrote after going through a financial valley, after building a very successful business. No one prepared me. No business lesson, no college course prepared me for the fact that in business, you will go through a dip. You will go through valleys, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a normal part of the cycle. In fact, I like to look at it from a spiritual lens that when you go through a dip, it's kind of like an eagle. An eagle, and in the Bible, we're often references like an eagle. An
Yeah.
eagle doesn't just start flying. An eagle first dives. And when they're in that dive, they then turn up and spread their wings. But it's in what looks like decrease that they actually get their lift and they begin to increase. And so to me, that message, yes, I do see it as a bigger purpose because speaks to every area of our lives.
That's so interesting. I just got that whole visual on like dive, then fly.
Yeah, isn't that something? Because
Incredible.
sometimes you think, I remember going through that and thinking, wait a minute, God, what? How is this happening? Like, and simultaneously I'm in ministry, but I have this big business that I'm building, that I built and it was building at the same time. And I remember it was over the weekend, like it wasn't just my business, the industry collapsed. And so, you go from riding high that Friday to that Monday, like everything's on fire. And I remember thinking, what is this? And so I said, okay. And I literally said this was my prayer. I said, God, if you get me out of this, I will teach other people how to get out. And that's where I wrote that first book. There was a blizzard in Denver for 3 days, and you couldn't go anywhere. So for 3 days, I sat there and I typed that book out, and I wrote down everything I learned from that valley. And it taught me that every victory is preceded by a valley. So whenever
Right.
you feel like you're in one, in business or in life, if you're in a valley now, there is a victory that's right ahead. Because think about it, valleys only appearing between what? Two mountains, and the mountain represents your victory.
So I love the visuals you give, Bishop. Um,
Mhm.
let's talk about that a little bit more. I want to talk
Yeah,
about the Harvest Foundation.
sure.
You've served thousands of families. And I'm sure a lot of lessons have come out of that for you and wonderful impact you've had on the community. I'm wondering, we know that within each of us is a king and
Hmm.
is a priest. What
Hmm.
about communities? What are some hidden strengths that are within communities that you see that are not being, I hate to use the word exploited, but pulled out
Sure.
and used in a beneficial way?
Sure. You know what? I would say number one is synergy. We made a determination. Sometimes in church, the goal is to recreate everything that everybody already does and just you do it. We learned a long time ago what we had a much greater efficacy is partnering and synergizing with people who are already doing it. And so, for example, we had in Denver, we gave away the latest count. I'm looking at it here was like 200 and something thousand pounds of food that we had given away. 211,000 pounds of food that we given away. So we had Denver's largest food bank, and we began to look at that and say, okay, we're putting a lot of effort, a lot of energy into what we're doing. We could synergize with the organization FBR that was there in the area, and we could instead reach more people by not doing it all ourselves. And I think when you say when it comes to community, a lot of the times people think, oh, we need to do this, we need to do this, or there's a better way. Why not just support and enhance and help to advance the work that others are doing? And so we began to do that. And when we began to do that, we saw some great things happen. We one of our big things in Denver, and now that we moved our headquarters to here to Atlanta, and we'll be planning the location here, we used to partner with the school districts. And so they would literally call us and say, Bishop, we don't have enough to meet the need. We need X amount of backpacks. We need X amount of this. And so we would create these resources and partnerships with the school districts to where they knew we were their partner. Whatever they needed, we had. And so I think the number one thing that's not being utilized in terms of community is synergy. Don't think you have to create something, especially business owners,
Mhm.
entrepreneurs. You're already doing what you're doing. Why not help empower somebody else to do that other thing and just partner with them instead of recreating what they're doing?
Yeah.
Uh,
Which actually takes us to the next question, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs and founders of franchise companies that are working with a lot of what we call franpreneurs or
Mhm.
franchises that are entrepreneurial.
Right.
How can leaders and entrepreneurs partner more effectively with faith-based nonprofit organizations to create sustainable change? What can we do to support Harvest or other
Oh,
organizations?
yeah, I love that question. I think one is recognizing what's already around you. Sometimes I think we're looking for things that are literally right in front of our face, and we've all done it. Where we said, "Where are my glasses?" On your face. You got them on your face right now. Where am I? Where I'm notorious for that. I said, "Where are my sunglasses?" They'll be on my face. Where's my phone? In your hand. I mean, you already have it. So I think recognizing one, what's around you. Of course, the Harvest Foundation does great work across America, around the world. And we see lives impacted there. So that's certainly an option. But sometimes in your local community, you've got all of what you need right there, and then identifying, I would say, the 2 to 3 things that are most important to you, and then funding those things and resourcing those things. So whether it's getting resources to them financially, and then resources sometimes people wise Great example of this. We partnered with one of our financial partners. We have a rule that if we do business with you, you have to support what we do. And so, because at the end of the day, if it's just going to be transactional, well, then we can, that's a different conversation. So our banking partners, when it was around Christmas time, we've given away now almost 30,000 toys to kids during Christmas time. And so all of our partners, they would put boxes in their banking locations. People would come, they would do that. That was something simple. Then when it was time to distribute, they sent tellers, they sent executives, they sent folks to come and work with us to get it done. And so that was an example of using what was right there, both funding it from a financial standpoint, because some said, you know what, here's a check to go get 10,000 toys. Here's a check to go do this. Here's a check to go do this. And I think one of the things that's important is getting the data. Sometimes people don't like to partner because it's like, well, what did they do with it? We're very big on here's the data. Like, this is what we did. This is what we gave. In fact, people can go to our website right now and see what did we do through the last quarter. We keep the data in front of people so people know. So resourcing it financially, resourcing it with people, a lot of it's already around you.
Beautiful.
So I'd like to get back to you for a minute.
Sure.
I'm really fascinated with your level of education and how you got to where you are and your title. So I'm wondering how many years it took for you to be ordained. And to be honest with you, I'm a little curious about your official title.
Sure. So the official title is this. It's a long one. We talked about it. It is His Eminence, the Most Reverend Dr. Kevin Foreman. That's the official title, right?
That is the most impressive title I have heard.
So it's this, as I said, call it the style. So you deal with reverend. That's typically a person that is, ordained into ministry. Doctor, that deals with the educational piece. Most adding before reverend deals with the level of the rank. So for those unfamiliar, bishop is just a pastor to pastors. So it's the best way to look at it. If you were to look at from an entrepreneurial standpoint, you've got your GMs at your local, you've got your regionals, and then, whatever that might be beyond there. So a bishop, essentially, depending on the level, you can have a regional, you can have a national, you can have in my case, what I'm called as a presiding bishop. So I essentially am a bishop to bishops, a leader to leader, a general to general, a coach to coaches. And so I love conversations like this because these are the people I like talking to because they get it. There's a lot of knowledge that you don't have to go through because, when you're sitting in a different seat, you see things a different way. And so that's where the most comes from. And then His Eminence, that's another style for the level of bishopric. There's actually levels to it. And so for that level, I'm for those who really want to get into the weeds about it, it's called a bishop primate is the technical title of it. That's the highest level of bishop that one can be consecrated to. So what's that?
It's called the bishop what?
Bishop primate. Bishop primate is what it's called.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So for those who really want to get technical and go into the weeds and get into ChatGPT or Google or whatever, that's all of that. And so interestingly enough, a lot of my experience and background afforded me those opportunities. I didn't seek. So I didn't seek to become a pastor. I didn't seek to become a bishop. I didn't seek any of this. This was really a plan that God had for me. If you want to know what I wanted to do, I was great in business and I wanted to go into law and politics. That's what I wanted to do. This was not my plan. And what's amazing is I sometimes sit back and look and smile and chuckle because I get to have involvement in all of the things I wanted to do while doing it from this seat. So, I loved to teach as a kid. And my first business is, there was a part of it was tutoring. I was probably the only kid who wanted a grade book for a present. I loved the teacher's grade books and the teacher's pens. And so I would get their little red pen and grade books. And so I would do that. And that was intriguing to me. I get to be involved in the political side. For me, it's more on the policy side. So I like to sit in the rooms with the people who are making the decisions. They'll send me bills and redline them and say, Bishop Foreman, what do you think about this? We need to do this. Quick story. Colorado, during the height of the George Floyd protests, That was clear that something needed to be done in the realm of police reform and accountability. I make one call to one state senator. I said, James, I can look out at my window. I see that the protests are going on. Clearly, something needs to be done. Colorado, which is only 4% African American, not a lot of ethnic or racial diversity there, was the first place in the nation to have comprehensive police reform and accountability from one phone call. And I didn't go to the bill signing. I have a rule. I don't let the politicians take pictures with me so they can use it as part of their stuff. You can't take pictures with me. But, you get to influence the lives of people. And it's not a Democrat thing. It's not a Republican thing. It's not a sides. We don't take sides. Let's advance the lives of people.
That's great. It's a boundary thing.
Right.
That's wonderful.
Right.
Yeah. Bishop, you said something earlier that was, in my mind, pretty bold to say on any podcast. You were talking about generational curses.
Mm.
And I absolutely believe in generational curses. I'm wondering if you could address that. What's
Mhm.
one curse, mindset, or habit that you see holding people back most often?
So good. So just to define it, generational curse, it's a principle in the scripture, but a lot of times, people say, well, I don't know that I believe in that. I just say, all you got to do is just look at your family.
That's
Look at your
right.
bloodline. Look at the people around you. So you don't have to believe in it. It believes in you. I mean, you just look at it. Like somebody say, I don't believe in gravity. Well, step out of this building. And if you step off the roof, let's see if it believes in you or not. Like you don't have to believe in it to make it valid. And so it's passed down and around. It's a destructive pattern of behavior passed down and around. And so, what I saw, my stepfather was an abusive man. He was a womanizer. He was an abuser. And my biological father, when I met him, he was not a man. Is not a man that is bold. He's not a risk taker. He lives from a place of regret. Now, I say that not to shame them, but to make the point. I had to then look and decide, who am I going to be? Because you often become what you behold. And in
Mhm.
my book, Sins of the Fathers, I open up actually talking about my stepfather, who's now deceased. He never met his biological father. In fact, when his mother was pregnant with him, there was an altercation, and in defense of herself, she actually had to she was actually the reason, but he, unalived. I'll be mindful of the algorithms,
Mhm.
and so in that he never met him. And why is that important to know that he never met him? Because it's a spiritual principle. You don't just have to be around it or see it. It's spiritual. It's passed down. He was the exact same man as his father. He was a womanizer, an abuser, all of these same things. He was that man. And so I opened the book actually with that story. I changed the names to protect to protect folks, but that's the opening story. And he's a perfect example of that. And I think of the few that come to mind, your question was some of these generational things that are passed down and around that most people struggle with or fight with and don't even know it. I think one deals with chronic fear, where
Mhm.
there is this chronic fear keeps you comfortable. So you will begin to justify why you don't do certain things. And business owners, it's really risky because you'll say it's a good business move or it's prudence. And many times it's not prudence. It is this chronic fear that's been passed down and around where you're afraid to step out and to step into your promise, to step into your promised land, to take a risk. The other that I see is it deals a lot with relationships, the people that we pick to be in our lives, that's passed down. There's so many. You can look at addictions, addictive behavior, so many. And I talk about them in that book. And I think it's one of those things that every person has to realize, either you're going to let a curse break you or you'll break the curse.
Wow, that is so impactful. And all
So,
these different levels of the generational curse. I never looked at it
mhm.
like there were all these different separate lines.
Right,
And
right.
what's really interesting about that is your story about your stepfather is
Mhm.
someone he really never met,
Yep.
but that pattern, that curse was passed down anyway, right? The
Absolutely.
sins of our fathers, the
Yep.
scripture
Yep.
talk about. And so we don't even have to be aware of
Right.
it, and it can be passed down, but we can observe it in ourselves, in our own behaviors and our own fears and our own limitations. and we can break those curses and change
Yes.
the next generations. We are given that authority.
Yes.
So thank you for covering that topic. It's a sensitive topic for some people, and I really, really appreciate that.
And
So I'm sorry, Tracy, you had something. I
I was
interrupted
just going to
you.
say, because of what you just said, Rebecca, I think maybe most of the times, like we're not aware of generational curses at all, right? And we can only
Mhm.
break them once we become aware of them.
Oh my goodness. And I think becoming aware is certainly important because you can't break what you can't behold, what you can't see. But I think also recognizing that everybody that's in your audience, these are obviously unique individuals, right? To be an entrepreneur, that's a unique thing. You got to be industrious, you got to be a pioneer, especially then the step, especially in the franchising world. But I think that the intricacies there really speak to the principle because really what are you getting when you get a franchise? You're being handed systems, structures, strategies, patterns, behaviors. This just like you're being handed good things, you can
Mhm.
also be handed bad things. And when you look at it through those lenses, it really opens up the subject for you to really begin saying, well, how much of this is really me, and how much of this was handed to me, how much of this was given to me, how much of this, and again, it's a spiritual thing, but how much of this isn't really who I am. Like I have to realize. Believe it or not, I spend my life on stages, on cameras, and with mics. But I was very shy as a kid and I've perspired really, really heavily, and so you can see my shy. And I remember in second grade in Memphis, I was the spokesperson for Smuckers, the jellies and grapes and jams. I was spokesperson for them in Memphis, and I remember I got on stage, I came alive, I came off, I was. What was this? And I had to recognize that's one of those things. It's insidious, but if I would walk in fear and being afraid of being in front of people and talking to people, well, my assignment in life was to do that. So the very thing I was created to do is the area that I cursed and empowerment to fail came in to try to shut me down and stop me.
That's so interesting.
I want to address that because that's really, really powerful. I mean, the scriptures talk constantly, do not fear, do not fear,
Yep.
do not fear.
365 times in the Bible it says that.
Once a day,
Once a
Every
day.
day.
yeah, right?
Yep.
Um, and to get to that place of boldness that you were talking about, we have to realize that this is an assignment that affects our anointing or tries to squash our anointing. So,
Yes.
um, tell me more about how you were able to get up there
Mhm.
and speak and
Mhm.
sweat and stutter and do all of that stuff through the fear. Did it just go away one day or
Oh
what?
my
What
goodness,
was that
such a
like?
great point. Such a great question. Really, it was this internal tug of war, and I think this is why that's a passionate subject for me because I am living proof of it and still living proof of it. Like I believe this: as long as you got a pulse, there's still a plan. So we're constantly evolving in that way. And it would be one of those things where I would literally have to talk myself into something, and then do it. And then as I continued to do it, that's the whole concept of breaking something. It's kind of like you ever seen where they're doing karate or something, and they have the wooden thing, and they hit it, and they have to hit it a few times. That's really the concept. It is more than just prayer. It's action. It's faith and action together. So I got to do something that helps me to push that through. And so literally that's what I did. And but it's not just in that area, it's every area. I decided I did not want financial lack. I did not want money to be my issue. And so when I went through that valley that I told you all about earlier, after building a very successful business and doing very, very well and just seeing God do amazing things, then you hit this valley. And so I'm like, okay, how am I here? And, I'm a person who believes in tithing and faithful giving. So I was like, I don't even understand how I'm here. I believe faithful givers flourish. How am I here? And I remember hearing these words: I'm going to anoint you, which just means give you grace, give you favor, add my super to your natural financially. And money will not be your issue. In fact, you will empower people financially. So all of those lessons that I learned were necessary so that boom, boom, we broke that. So that's not the issue. So when people connect to me, they normally see their lives increase, they do better, their debts canceled, debt free, because I had to decide, again, going back to that karate example, I got to keep breaking through these blocks one by one by one.
Which
That
is
is-
that comment you made earlier, faith without works,
Right.
right? So the works is the karate chop. It's going through those thoughts and doing what you need to do anyway, not allowing the fear to capture even a single
Right.
moment, but just to karate chop through it.
Karate on to listen, that's it right there. Karate chop through it right there. I love that.
You know what I find so incredible is that you fell into and you fell upwards in in religion and being a bishop, just in everything that you've been doing that you were describing. And our franchisees and franchisors that are listening to this, most of them, and most 95%, if not 99%, of the people who Rebecca and I interview on the Franchise Women podcast, they went into franchise unintentionally. They fell into it too, which makes you so relatable with this message.
Yes, yes. I really think I really think purpose is something that you do exactly the way you just said it. And I love that. That's one of the things that is a focus of y'all's podcast is sometimes people think there's these burning bush moments
Right.
where, you are to start a podcast. I am you are to start a franchise. I am the Lord. And here's what we
Right.
discovered, like Moses, to get to the burning bush, he's doing something else that he planned on doing for the rest of his life. He's tending to Jethro, his father-in-law's sheep. He used to be a prince in Egypt for 40 years. Now, the last 40 years, he's taking care of somebody else's, if we can make it real relatable, somebody else's business. He's managing somebody else's staff, somebody else's business, somebody else's life. And then as he's going to just continue to do that, he's interrupted and the bush is burning, but it's not consumed, which means there's this fire, there's this passion, there's this desire, but it's not consuming. And so some people, they'll say, oh, I just feel burnt out. Or is that your burning bush moment? Are you stumbling into something greater, stumbling into something new? And I think if you look at the Bible, you just look at the life, everybody's life is that way. I know very few people, if any, that say, I knew I was always going to do this exactly like this forever. I've never met anybody where that's the case.
This conversation could go on for hours,
Oh
right?
my God, and I
Oh
love
my
it.
gosh. But I think that's really, and thank you for drawing those parallels because it really is just that. We wander through life, we're coming up the corporate ladder, and the burning bush comes. Do you think, along with that burning bush, that moment of, I think it's time I need to go a different direction, whether that's into franchising or ministry or something else, do you think God gives us a plan?
Oh my goodness. I think he gives us the next step. And I think that next step for many, which, for example, with what you all do, you all come with such a wealth of knowledge and information and what have you, that makes the next step like a giant leap, which I think is so critical. I think sometimes we think we have to rough everything out and everything has to be so difficult. I think when you look at Moses, he tells Moses, listen, he gives him the plan. He says, you're going to go to Egypt. I've heard the cries of my people. You're going to go to Egypt. You're going to be the one that I use to set them free. Moses begins to give a bunch of excuses, like we
Yep.
all do in business and life. Well, I don't have the money, or I need an SBA loan, or I need this, or I need that, or I need this, or I need that, or I need that. He gives them all of these excuses, and two things come out of it. And this will be a great way to close it. Two things come out of it. He says, well, I want you to look at what's already in your hand. You already have something that's already in your reach that you can use. And then he says, but I can't speak well. I can't speak well. I'm a stutterer. Okay, as if I didn't know that before I told you to do that. Just like you're acting like you're informing me of something I didn't know, Moses. I made you. I know you can't speak. He says, I'm going to give you Aaron and he'll speak for you. What does that really represent? I'm going to give you help. I'm going to give you support. I'm going to give you somebody that helps to bring some structure, some strategy, some systems, some next steps to you. So to answer your question, yes or no, yes, he does. And he doesn't give it all to us, but he certainly gives us the next piece.
Wow.
Thank you for drawing those parallels. They're so accurate. By the way, I named my son Aaron because I wanted him to be just like Aaron coming alongside Moses and speaking on behalf. And
I love that.
he has turned out to be just that. He is my Aaron. So
I love that.
thank you, Bishop, for being with us today. I really appreciate it. I took about 1,000 notes.
Oh, I love it. I love that.
I loved the comment you made about we become what we behold, but we have to be able to behold something to be able to break it. I thought that was a really interesting point you made, that we really do have to have some reflection so we can break those curses, and a million other wonderful things that you said. So thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So how
And
can our audience get in touch with you?
Oh, listen, simplest way is bishopforeman.com, Foreman.com. That'll get to the books, that'll get to social media, website, the foundation, which we talked about, and the coaching and different things that we do. So many resources that are available. There's great business resources too, for those that want to take advantage of that. And then on social media, back to my People's Bishop moniker, I actually respond to messages. Now, I get about 300 to 400 on Instagram a day, so it takes me a while over there. If you want to get to me quickly, LinkedIn is the fastest way because the messages are less over there. But on social media, and I'd love to know if you were watching. I'd love to know that you watched. Please shoot me a message. Let me know something spoke to you or blessed you, and or gave you some great insight. And that's all at Bishop Foreman, and you'll know it's me because everything is verified. I have to say that because on TikTok, there's about 100 fake accounts of me on
Oh,
TikTok
gosh.
alone. And what's very funny is that sometimes their fake pages, my videos will get more views on the fake page, on the fake pages
no,
than
we're
even my own.
multiplying.
So at
We're
any rate,
multiplying.
exactly. It's like, this is a great page. Leave this one up because this one's got
Yeah,
views.
for sure.
Yeah.
Tracy, I'm going to go to you for your final thoughts, your final words.
I have to tell you that usually I have an aha moment, and then that's what I conclude with. This today was very different for me. The entire interview, like I don't even want it to end, but the entire interview, like you walk the talk to such a degree that I want to embrace it and like bring the whole thing into my heart. Like I'm literally gonna sit for like an hour and just contemplate all of this inspiration to see like what is my next step? What can I put out into the world, having been inspired by this past hour? And I think that anyone listening to this podcast is going to feel the exact same way. I've been so moved by having you here today. Thank you so much for being here. And wait, I have it written down. His eminent, most reverend Dr. Bishop Foreman. Did I say it right?
You got it right. You got it. You got it. You got it. You got it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love it. And thank you to our audience for listening in today to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. Make sure to like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe. And remember, we are both kings and priests. So go out there and make that happen. We'll see you next week on another episode.